my friend from Dhaka in the middle, and I think this will have to be the last question.
Well, quite a few years ago, I visited Karachi when Akhtar Hamid Khan was alive, and I visited Orangi pilot project. And they were experimenting with participatory development. They were developing a sewerage system for 3 million people on their own, and a lot of other things. So I just wanted to know what happened. I know that the chief executive officer was assassinated, I think last year or year before. She was a Bangladesh-born young lady. I met her. So what's the status of OPP, Orangi Pilot Project now?
Yes. No doubt, Akhtar Hamid Khan was an icon of development sector, not only in South Asia, but around the world. And the case that you referred, the successor of Akhtar Hamid Khan, the lady, she was killed 2 years back by one mafia. And last week, her killers are arrested from Peshawar. There were news. But let me tell you that in Karachi, it's not only Orangi pilot project, but many think tanks or many civic engagement groups, they face same kind of threats from various mafias. And that's why I say that in Karachi, it is the local government system could really resolve those issues, because then every small community would be able to find some space in the system. And if we don't have local government system and every business is being dealt directly by the province or by the federation, then the local communities don't find spaces. So Orangi Pilot Project is a very unique example in Pakistan, and they are doing well, but they are under threat since many years.
We have been given the green light to take a few more minutes. So I know there was a big sigh in the back of the room when we, so if that gentleman would stand up, and then we'll circle back around. So.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm Selvam, heading the Puducherry branch of Institute of Social Sciences, Puducherry, India. I'm part of the organizing committee of this conference. Mine is a general remark and a call. In fact, I had a question to Mr. Sisodia, but since he had to leave, I'll write to him definitely. It's become a fashion in this world, many countries, including India, to talk about local governments, empowering them at the grassroots, Panchayat Raj in India especially. But the powers that be eloquently talk about giving power back to the people or empowering them truly, fiscally, politically, do not do. Speaking from Indian experience, so it's been more than 20 years since we had this law, Panchayat Raj Act, enacted. And there are voices, of course, here and there, but the political class knows very well that this is the instrument, this is the way. This can definitely actually empower people if they really talk about democracy, real democracy, where people are empowered in all respects. But unfortunately, that's not happening. So my observation and my serious concern and my request to all of you to spend a little more time, talk about the ways in which the local bodies, the local governments can be empowered. If you're talking about democracy, I think we have to relook at our own, introspect the theory, the practice that we have so far, and try and devise a new model that can really, really empower people at the grassroots. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Someone in the middle, yes, the gentleman here. Yeah.
One is observation, one is question. I think autonomous social movements are very strong in Pakistan. I mean, it is not so strong in India as it is Pakistan. And that, I think, is one of the very silver lining as far as I can see from the media. But the question is that you say you have got so much homeless and houseless population. What are you doing about it? And what are your kind of focus to solve the homelessness and houselessness problem? Because Manish talked about the problem of land problem of land in urban areas. Do you have similar problem of getting land in urban areas in Karachi and in Pakistan? And secondly, you talked about the local government in urban areas, but I think there needs to be synchronization of local government both in the rural areas and urban areas to arrest the process of migration from rural to urban.
As far as social movements in Pakistan are concerned, you are right that as compared to many countries in the region, Pakistan has a long tradition of having very strong social movements. I think mainly because of the fact that we went through military regimes. So the society had to exhibit civic courage and to resist those coercive policies. And I think that is the main reason behind the strong tradition of resistance and social movements in Pakistan. And in a society like Pakistan, where people are divided on many lines, I think this is one of the common parallels that people by and large in Pakistan have agreed on this notion that if Pakistan has to survive and to move ahead, then democracy would be the only solution. So I think this has really impacted Pakistan's political society. The issue that you referred regarding the homeless people in Pakistan, that issue is mainly faced in Quetta and Karachi. In Lahore, we don't find many slum areas like Karachi, because Karachi is a city where I told you that 3.8 million illegal immigrants from Afghanistan, from Bangladesh, from Burma, from even some parts of Rajasthan, people are living there, and they don't have access to services, they don't have jobs or opportunities. And the issue of slums and the homeless people in the urban areas. So I think, again, there cannot be a short-term solution to this very complex problem. But at least if local governments are in place and the people are registered on ground and the state or the government know that how many people live out there, so there may be a mechanism to work for them. And in Pakistan, unfortunately, in all the urban areas, almost 34% of the urban land is consumed by the army in the name of cantonments. So you can imagine that in the same cities, when you visit cantonments, they have all good facilities like any nice urban city in the world. But in the same city, if in Karachi, if you go to Liari, you could feel that you have entered into 18th century, even the worst situation. So, and even in Karachi, because city is divided on ethnic lines. And MQM remained in local government for many terms in Karachi. And they discriminated the population on ethnic lines, because we don't see development in Liari, in Malir, and in many other parts where other communities are living. So I think, again, I would say that there cannot be a short-term, simple solution to this very complex issue, but we can move ahead incrementally if we have some adequate, workable, doable, substantial planning and policy in our hand. And above all, the will to make a difference.
Thank you. And the lady at the front table.
Hi, I'm Ridma. I'm from Bangladesh. My question was actually originally to the Honorable Minister, but the question that I want to ask is that the Minister was saying that the only way that we can actually address the real issues of urbanization is by engagement of the voice of the citizens. Now, traditionally, whenever such a voice has been recorded, the woman voice has been excluded or marginalized. So what can it be done to make sure that the local governments are more gender sensitive and women voices are actually being heard?
As I told you that after this 18th constitutional amendment, the subject of local governments was shifted to the respective provinces. Now it is no more with the federation. So the provinces are fully autonomous and free to. And last year, all the 4 provinces in Pakistan, Sindh, Punjab, and KPK and Balochistan, they made legislation for their local government system. So there are slight differences in those acts, but by and large, I think that could be a good beginning in Pakistan, that at least those acts were not made by dictators or by individuals. Those laws were made in the assemblies. People had discussion on those issues. So I think no policy or law can be the final word. It's always an organic and living phenomena. So I think this this process, that all the 4 provinces, they have their own laws, and this year we are hopefully going for local government elections, and in all these 4 provincial acts, this aspect was addressed significantly, that there should be adequate representation of women in the system. And almost the act that Balochistan has passed is better than all 3 other acts. But by and large, all the 4 acts, they have created spaces for women at all levels, from the councillorship to the mayorship.
I would just add, I think it was a very good question. At NDI, we have found that actually it's local level government offices that are easiest for women to access as candidates. At the same time, we see this challenge of getting women's voice into the issues related to local government, and we're launching a global study on why there's this disconnect. It's, on the one hand, very practical for women to run for local office, and yet women's voices are not counting for much at the local level. So we're trying to look at this in a study, and it should be out next year. Oh, one last question. This has got to be it. Okay, 2 last questions. The gentleman and the lady.
I'm Michael Fernandes. George Fernandes has been a protagonist of a federation of our neighboring countries, particularly India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. I want to ask whether this idea is there in the minds of many people, number 1. Number 2, would the related NGOs conduct a kind of a referendum, a kind of a plebiscite in all these countries at the people's level? We know that at the government level and, politically, there would be opposition to this. But since in the morning a point was made that people, at the people level, they love each other. I mean, Indians love the Pakistanis and Pakistanis love Indians. But at some other level, we see it's not happening. Even where cricket goes on, we see the kind of tensions even that game gives rise to. So I would like to know whether a private initiative, a people's initiative can be there to federate these countries, so that incidentally it may also solve the J&K problems that we face.
You raised 2 questions, and one was about the issue of federalism in Pakistan. As you all know, that by virtue of constitution, Pakistan is a federation. But Pakistan actually inherited federal system from the British colonial era, and we continued with the Colonial Act, 1935 Act, as our interim constitution for 9 years in the first decade of country's history. And even if you look at the constitutions that were made in Pakistan, 1956 constitution, 1962 constitution, 73, all these constitutions were basically established on the principles of Colonial Act, 1935 Act. But I think after this 18th constitutional amendment, Pakistan has moved forward to have more inclusive democracy and federal structure in the constitution and in practice. For example, the arbitrary powers from the presidency are shifted to the parliament. Even the powers that the prime minister had previously, now Prime Minister has been made more accountable before the Parliament and the Cabinet. Thirdly, we abolished concurrent list in the Constitution. So now the provinces are relatively more autonomous in terms of governance. So I think 18th Constitutional Amendment was a big step moving towards having an inclusive federal structure in the Constitution, and now things would get better incrementally. And above all, it is not only the Constitution, but for any successful federation, we need to have some federal spirit in society. But unfortunately, in Pakistan, what we did that since inception, we denied the reality of diversity of people. We professed upon uniformity, and rather we tried to impose uniformity linguistically and politically and constitutionally. But now I think in Pakistan, people have come to realize, and even I would say political parties have come to realize that despite some common features, since society is so diverse, that diversity should not only be respected, protected, but celebrated. So that is the federal spirit that prevails now in Pakistan. The last thing that you... And the right word for that mechanism would be confederation, because federation does not exist in any region. For a federation, you need a state. But you're right that we have two models before us. One is European Union. We can say that European Union is also a confederal sort of model that has united European societies and countries. And another example is African Union. That same model has also been experimented in Africa. So I think maybe in future, but South Asia has a problem that I think there are two main obstacles in the path of having a confederal sort of structure at the regional level. One is the disparity in the development level. So there might be mass level migrations if we make borders very loose. And secondly, the disparity in the demography. Bhutan is a very, very small, tiny country. Nepal is a small country. India is a huge country. Pakistan, Bangladesh. So there might be some demographic challenges in the region. But I think ultimately the region has to reach at the level where people would demand that South Asia really merits to have a mechanism like European Union in the future.
Okay, now the organizers were very, very nice to give us extra time, but I think this has got to be our last question from the lady in the back. Sorry.
My name is Sunita. I'm a little pained to know, sir, that you said that not many NGOs are liked by the political parties. I see a bit of contradiction here. Being an NGO myself, I work under the banner of Social Action for Human Solidarity. We work with children in distress. On one hand, we are being told by the government to have an extra bit of sensitivity to deal with people. And on the other hand, to walk one step ahead, we have to pass the test of celibacy. Why this contradiction? Why can't the government, who has all the resource, have more sensitivity if you wish to pass on the burden to the NGOs who are supposedly the do-gooders? They are voluntary people. I, for once, know that when I founded my organization, I desisted from taking one bit of financial support. We thrive only on voluntary spirit. The goodness of the NGO is expected by one and all, but at the same time, today, all over the world, the NGO sector is under a flag. Why this is so? I'm sure the condition in India is such, and also the Pakistan must be facing the same problem. Why should all the do-gooders be in the front row to receive all the brickbat from the government? The direct responsibility is of the government, of the democracy. We are only supporting, and we are the partners in development, not the people who are directly responsible to bring the society at peace, loving one another, or for that matter, doing solidarity of any type. What is this kind of a democracy? When NGO themselves are not given the right to participate.
Thank you, madam. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jommy, do
You
wanna
are,
try to
yes,
make-
a very
yeah.
brief response. As I told earlier, that it varies issue to issue. On some issues, political parties appear to be very comfortable with right-based organizations. For example, when the right-based movements or organizations confront with the governments, if we criticize the government policies, then the political parties feel happy on that. But when it comes to their internal mechanisms or their policies or the deficits that civil society finds in political culture, then they often don't like it. But I think now in Pakistan, especially during the Musharraf's regime, the lawyers movement was a success story. That this was the movement in which the lawyers took lead, but NGOs, right-based organizations, political parties, social activists, media people, intelligentsia. So this was kind of a reflection that now the convergence among all these competing actors in society is taking place. But I think this is not very significant only with Pakistan. This is a global phenomenon. That whenever civil society or some NGOs do criticize political culture or some their